Evening, everyone. Welcome to our October 12th, 2022 Planning Board meeting. Will everyone please rise for our pledge? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Steve, before you do the minutes, I guess congratulations is in order to you and Woodard and Kern. Congratulations on your award.
Thank you. I apologize for not being able to be there in person.
I think this is a legitimate excuse. If you would take the roll call, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Chairman John Curry.
Here.
Vicki Gannon.
Here.
Nancy Garbino.
Here.
Dennis McNamara.
Here.
Jack Mattis.
Here.
Bruce Prince.
Here.
Christopher Zaberto.
Here, but non-voting tonight.
Thank you. First on our agenda, the draft minutes from September 14th, 2022. Any changes, additions anybody can think of?
No.
Then I make them, and once again, great job as always. Make a motion, we approve the minutes from September 14th, 2022.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And first is a extension request from Granite Point. It's for their 21st 90-day time extension for steep slopes, tree preservation, stormwater management, and erosion sediment control permits. It's a re-grant of Route 1, and the address is 118-202. On the map, it's 27.05-1-2 and 5. This, like I said, this is their 21st 90-day extension, and the dates are from October 20th, 2022, up to and including January 23rd, 2023, as per town law, section 276-7C, and town code section 150-13M. Any board member comments?
Yeah, I have a comment.
Sure.
As I was talking to Chris, we have, this is now entering its 6th year. This can go on, am I understanding that this can go on forever? Aren't there changes in certain policies over the last 6 years that might affect this development?
It could be.
Well, in answer to the first part of your question, theoretically, Jerry, correct me, it can go on as long as they keep requesting an extension. But the last time Mr. Allen was in here, he did indicate to us that some work has been done by the state, if I'm not mistaken. Does that sound right, Dave?
Yes, that was my recollection as well. Yeah, with DEC.
The DEC, I should, yes. So there is work being done. The state's portion, I believe, is all cleaned up.
Okay.
But the law is that they can continue to request.
It is a record setter.
Your
Yeah.
record is.
Yeah. So. Well, then, if there's no other comments, I'll make a motion that we grant that request.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Next is our public hearing for the Dish Wireless. And that's on 294 Route 100. It's the application for a special use permit wireless telecommunications facility. On the map is 28.1-1-1.1. And it's actually for a new use permit to co-locate the Dish Wireless antennas, radios, and cabling on an existing monopole tower and an equipment cabinet on a steel platform with new underground fiber to Route 138. Evening.
Good evening. My name is Michael Sheridan, attorney with Snyder and Snyder, here on behalf of Dish. As the chairman just indicated, Dish is looking to co-locate on the existing tower and at the existing facility at 294 Route 100. They will be locating their antennas on the tower. They will be the lowest carrier on that tower at approximately 61 feet. They will be putting equipment within the existing fenced compound at the base of the tower, and they will have its connections going out to the road. We understand that there's a public hearing tonight. We'd love this board to open the public hearing if there are no comments, close the public hearing. Also understand that a draft of resolution has been drafted. And if there are no public comments, if the board is satisfied, we request that you adopt that resolution.
Okay, before we open the public hearing, I just want to hear any comments from Dave or Steve. Dave,
I have no further comments.
Steve?
Our only comments are that we do have a couple of comments outstanding from our September 8th, 2022 memo. And we recommend that the board elect to waive responses to items 2D, E, and F, which deal with the applicant's design philosophy, roaming agreements, and RF drive tests for the purposes of this resolution if the board so decides. The other major item outstanding on our review is an erosion and sediment control plan. We have been in touch with the applicant and we know that they are working on this. We've seen some of the information for it. And I don't believe that their completion of that application per the town code will change any of the environmental impacts or scope of the work as proposed. And that can be a condition of the resolution if the board so chooses.
Okay. Any board member comments?
I agree with that.
Well, then I'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone here who would like to speak on it? Appears there isn't anyone. Make a motion, we close the public hearing.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Is board feel comfortable with preparing staff to prepare the resolution that they already prepared? That's pretty quick, huh?
It is.
Any comments on that? No? So do we actually have to physically have it, or we can
Well,
vote on that?
we provided a
Yeah,
copy
that
to you.
copy, so we
Yes,
we can.
you have a copy before you, so
Right.
you may act on the resolution that's before you.
Okay. Any other board member comments? Can you help me with the numbering sequence? Because I apologize, I did not bring it with me to make the motion for that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks. All right, then make a motion that we approve resolution 2022-8, the grant of conditional special permit approval to Dish Wireless LLC for modification and upgrade of existing approved Crown Castle facility. And for the record, that is at 294 Route 100, 37 Route 138.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And once again, prepare another resolution that Vicky didn't find anything to say about, which I'm impressed. You might be setting a record here.
That one with a yellow dot, I didn't know what it meant.
Yeah. That's the knot
Okay.
in the fabric. Is that the?
Huh?
It's what I don't know. Somebody said it's the knot in the tapestry. I guess that makes it more expensive. So little.
Okay.
I'm glad you caught it.
Next is project review for the Erstat Biddle properties. It's the application for site plan and wetlands permit approval for a proposed tractor supply at the Somers Commons Shopping Center, Route 6 and Tomahawk Street.
Turn it a little bit. Just turn it a little bit so I can see.
Yeah, and Mr. Chairman.
Good.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I believe that there are representatives from Erstat Biddle and perhaps Tractor Supply that are in virtual or at Zoom at some point. So they may.
Did you hear that, Paul?
Yeah, I have two people there.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, you got Wing sitting idle, Mr. Biddle, and Matt Darling, who, if I
Darling.
recall, is from Tractor Supply. So
Correct. Yeah.
Edie.
Just a clarification, I represent Tractor Supply, but I'm not from Tractor Supply, but I'll be here to answer any questions about their operations and things like that.
Thank you.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Rob Aiello with the firm of JMC in Armonk, New York, and we are the engineers for the applicant, Erstad Biddle Properties. Here with me tonight is Andrew Albrecht, Vice President of Construction with Erstad Biddle Properties, as well as Wing Biddle and Matt Darling, as you just heard with us virtually. Just wanted to give you an update as to what we've done since our last appearance before your board in August. We have appeared before the ZBA and obtained a variance for the fence that's proposed around the outdoor display area for the proposed Tractor Supply use. Just as a reminder to everyone that might be listening at home and is not familiar with the application, the board on my right it shows the former home goods store, and in the area of that home goods store, minus 2,700 square feet, and the outside area that's currently a open courtyard, that will be the proposed Tractor Supply store. The inside use would be in the home goods space, and then we're doing an outdoor display area in the location of the existing pervious area outside the space. So we did receive our variance for the 8-foot tall fence around the perimeter of the outdoor display area. So what that has occurred, so we have that, and we're back before your board. Leading up to this meeting, we did provide comment response letters based on comments that we received from the town planning consultant, the town's engineering consultant, as well as from Westchester County Department of Planning. And we were also in receipt of new versions of their comments. And, we're prepared to go through any of those comments that you might want to focus on. We plan to provide additional information to you, in our next submission and in response to those comments. But we're hoping from a procedural standpoint, if we're able to answer any of your questions tonight, that we can ask your board to perhaps consider scheduling a public hearing for the project at your next meeting.
Thank you.
Oh, there is one other item I
Sure.
forgot in my notes too. We have also submitted our stormwater pollution prevention plan to the town engineer or your town engineer consultant, and also to the New York City Department of Environmental Protection.
For what it's worth, we were talking about that before the meeting.
Your
That's a
book-
joke.
book.
It's a disgrace you have to do that. I'm
It's not a-
sorry.
it's a book.
It's not right. I know.
Well, we are in a designated
know.
Main Street area.
I know.
So,
I know. It's
yes.
just
So it's been designated.
2 million trees that be cut down for that.
Well, it's a lot better than it used to be.
I
because
know,
We used to provide 20 copies of the book, and
Yeah.
now we provide digital copies. So progress, I guess.
Is that,
That-
Dave,
yeah.
do you have anything to say?
Just, I did prepare a review memo, and I just wanted to comment that the applicant did provide what I think is sufficient information to have a better understanding of the parking demand, the traffic demand. They did get the variances, Mr. Aiello has indicated. I think part of the comments that I didn't see, one is that the town engineering technician just wanted to check on the functioning of the stormwater system, but that shouldn't hold up the scheduling of a public hearing. We can do that. And I've already mentioned that to Mr. Wolfel. So we're going to go out there in the next short while. The one comment that I had is just if you could explain, or perhaps somebody from, maybe it's Mr. Darling, just part of your operation is the use of the outdoor storage, where you have people coming in to pick up some of the larger items. And my only concern was how, from an operational standpoint, how is that coordinated? Does somebody call in advance, just so that you're avoiding queuing to get into that? And perhaps you don't have the volume. And I'm thinking that you have a survey of a number of different facilities in the Northeast, and perhaps that could provide a little bit of a background as to how that operation works.
Sure. Matt, would you like to discuss that in a little more detail, or would you like me to?
I'm happy to kick it off, and then if you have anything to add, that would be just fine. But I've personally been in charge of developing over 50 of these stores and locations. And I apologize. I got a request to share my video. I'm actually traveling here, and I have very poor reception. I'm worried if I start my video, I'll drop you all. But if it's mandatory, I'll turn it on.
No, I think it does. I don't think he needs to turn his video on.
Okay.
You're not presenting anything,
No,
are you, Matt?
no.
No. I just got something came up on my screen asking me to start my video, so I just wanted to clarify that. Anyway, so I have, like I said, personally been in charge of developing more than 50 of these locations across the Northeast, and these side yards are, I think they're accessed a half a dozen times in any given day. I've honestly, in all of my time visiting my stores that I've developed and that I've developed for others, I have honestly never seen a vehicle go in there. They do go in there, but extremely infrequently. So in order for a vehicle to go in there, they need to purchase something that they can't physically pick up and bring out. Believe it or not, there's a lot of merchandise in there that can be picked up and brought out. And there's only 2 cash registers within the building. And so customers have to go out there, shop around, come back in, inform the clerk working at the counter what merchandise they want to purchase. The clerk has a magazine full of items, so they'll ring the item out the customer wants, and then the customer will exit and bring their vehicle in the store, where an associate will be there waiting for them, either with a forklift or with just additional manpower to lift the item up into the vehicle. So, there's only 2 registers. Usually only one is occupied unless it's a busy time of the year. There just can't be enough transactions to happen fast enough for vehicles to be needing to enter into this space and cause any backlog. As far as hard data is concerned, I don't necessarily have hard data, spreadsheets, traffic counts that go into this thing, but just having experience with this over the past decade of working with Tractor Supply and developing their stores and owning several of them, I can tell you right now that there just is no traffic really that goes through that can create any type of queuing situation. I think also we can't forget that this we'll call it drive aisle through the fence yard it's a good 150 some odd feet long. If there were more than one vehicle you needed access to it, there's plenty of room for vehicles to enter and just sit until they're loaded up and then exit out the rear. So again, I hope that answers it. It's my experience, and happy to, clarify that even further if I need to.
That was very helpful. Thank you.
Can somebody go over the change in parking spaces that we're approving for the home goods versus the Tractor Supply?
Sure. So our table of land use on the cover sheet shows the number of parking spaces that currently exist on the property and the number of parking spaces after the implementation of the Tractor Supply Company store. So there's currently 1,064 parking spaces on the property. And once the Tractor Supply Company is in operation, there will be 1,037. Now, that is primarily along the back of the building where there will be outdoor storage and display of trailers and things of that nature. So we're not removing the parking spaces, but they will be utilized for outdoor display. There's also a propane tank that's proposed behind the building in the location of those existing parking spaces, which is going to be used, as a filling station for customers, home propane tanks. So that's the macro look at the parking. Regarding the parking demand of the Tractor Supply store versus the home goods, Tractor Supply Company's engineer, find that report, Solely Engineering, prepared a report dated August 29th that we provided to your board for review. Mr. Smith had quoted from that, stating that the typical supply for a tractor supply based on the different stores that they analyzed in their letter is usually at a ratio of 2.2 per 1,000 square feet, where only 1.06 of that is actually utilized, but the supply that's provided is 2.2. So what that means for this store is that that would equate to 114 parking spaces being provided at a typical Tractor Supply Company, but only about half of that would be actually utilized based on their analysis. Whereas the existing home goods store and the square footage of the area to be used as outdoor display under the town code would require 150 parking spaces. So the typical Tractor Supply use or supply is less than what is currently required by the code for the space that we'll be utilizing as a Tractor Supply Company. So there's, a number of analyses and other, counts at other stores that provided, but what I just explained is really the crux of the letter.
Does that answer your question, Bruce?
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted that repeated. I read the report, seemed to make sense. I just wanted to clarify it.
Okay.
Understood.
Steve, do you want to run through your comments?
Yeah, we're waiting for Steve.
Oh, actually, Steve, I'm sorry.
Go
So
ahead, Rob.
one item so we have read through Woodard and Kern's comments, and one item I did want to explain in a little more detail is that the area that is currently the courtyard area, if you will, the grass area. There's a ongoing pump and treat operation there that's under the supervision of the DEC.
I was waiting for that.
Yes, so that's prior groundwater contamination that relates to the uses which existed before the shopping center was
Golden
built
Place Shop,
in its current form. Exactly. And I believe it,
1960s,
correct.
cleaning fluid.
I'll let you finish.
It was
Yes.
major
Yes,
disaster.
it was. So that's been an ongoing pump and treat operation where groundwater is extracted from that area. It's treated in a structure just outside the paved area, and then is discharged to the watercourse and wetland in the back of the property. So within the area that we're using as an outdoor display area and putting in a concrete pad, there are 4 monitoring wells. And that's where samples are taken periodically by Erstad Biddle and provided to DEC for their review under the current site management plan. And there are 2 extraction wells which have pumps inside of them, which are drawing water out and pumping it to the structure that I meant with the treatment. So those wells can and will remain. So the ongoing pump and treat operation will remain. We are planning to leave the extraction wells in their current location. And the monitoring wells, 3 of them, I believe will stay, and 1 might need to be modified. We need to work through that with the DEC. But Erstad Biddle has its consultant, GES, who has been in contact with DEC, explaining to them these plans and the intention of what we're looking to do here. We've had conference calls with them, and they will have to modify the site management plan to accommodate this use. So there are some details we need to work through. Should the wells stick out through the slab so that they'll always be accessible? Can they be flush with the concrete so that, they won't be disturbed, but people might put something to be stored over them, and it might, preclude, how you can store it. So we're going to work through those details with the DEC, but the monitoring wells, 3 out of the 4 likely, 1 might be relocated. Their function will remain, and the extraction wells will remain. And also the electric line and the force main that goes from the extraction wells to the treatment facility will also either remain or be reconstructed, but that's being coordinated with GES and the DEC.
Thank you. Steve, you might want to make some comments?
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Rob, for that additional information. In the execution of the work in the context of the site management plan, is there adequate space in your limits of disturbance for any supplemental materials handling or segregation of soil from that area as opposed to other areas of the site, just to make sure that the environmental impacts of the work that you're proposing there are appropriately disclosed and the limit of disturbance is correctly identified on the plans?
Right, yeah, that is actually, Steve, a very good point, but that is another aspect that we are currently dealing with the DEC on, GES is coordinating with them on. We're actually working with them to do some additional testing of the soils, to categorize the soil, which will then inform where the where the material will be handled as we're doing the construction of the tractor supply. Steve, to answer your question directly, I don't have an answer for that right now in terms of what the, what that will yield. But right now the plan is to do the soil management and the sorting within that area, within the area of the outdoor display, get it to the point where we can get the materials where they need to be ultimately, and then we can construct the, construct the actual finished improvement, the pad. So
Sure.
More information to come, but the intention is to keep it within that existing disturbance area or within that existing area for the sorting of the soil.
And would any, if you do need additional space in that limit of disturbance, would that be within the existing parking lot area, or are you anticipating that you would need, if you need additional space, any other currently impervious surface for that soil staging and transfer area?
Yeah, I will need to get some more information from GES and provide that in a follow-up, Steve. I'm not 100% sure what the plan is.
Yeah, nope, that's fine. And we do acknowledge that you did submit the SWIP to us. I did take a quick look. It looks certainly complete, and I appreciate you and your team's efforts putting that through. We'll review it in more detail, but at this time, I don't see anything in that plan that would result in any changes to the site plan from what's currently proposed. Rob, can you speak a bit to the county's comments and the relocation of the Beeline bus stop and their comments and how this plan has accommodated their feedback?
Yeah, we haven't reached out to the county with regard to the bus stop, but currently there's a bus stop in front of that area where the outdoor display area will be. It's certainly something that we want to make sure remains at the site, and we'll work with the county to identify the best location, with the proposed site plan.
Okay.
Anything else, Steve?
I have no further comments, Chairman. Thank you.
Board member comments? Anyone? How does the board, Steve, would you recommend that we schedule a public hearing?
Yeah, I think the applicant has disclosed the impacts of the project adequately at this time for the public to comment. So yes, I'd be in favor of that.
I would concur.
Board feel comfortable with that?
Yes.
Yes.
I make a motion and it would schedule a public hearing for our November 9th, 2022 meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hey,
You got what you wanted.
Excellent. Thank you
There
very
we
much.
go.
Was that November 9th? Did you say?
November 9th.
November 9th.
T-shirts to follow?
Sounds good. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you on November 9th.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody.
Next on our agenda is an informal presentation on a plan for subdivision of 2 parcels into 3 residential lots accessed off of Green Tree Road through the town right away and New York State DOT easement areas. The property is in the R80 zoning district, and I believe, if I'm reading this correct, owned by Michael Burrell. So am I saying that right? Burrell and Nicole Stern. You don't like our easel? I don't blame you. Guy's been away for a while. So 2013, Nancy, something like that, 13, 14.
2006, maybe? I don't know. It's a long time ago.
Evening, my name is Peter Scott. I'm an engineer and architect, and I'm representing the applicant tonight on this project. What we're proposing is indicated before you on SY1. And the property is a 280A project. That is, it doesn't have frontage on a town road. It doesn't have frontage because the bike trail passes between this property and the Green Tree Road, and accordingly, we have contacted DOT, and they've given us confirmation that we'll be able to pass through this property with a roadway serving 3 lots. We presented some paperwork indicating that they would permit us to apply for an application, but because of SECA, we won't be following through with that until we work with your offices to proceed with that. The property has some history, and it wasn't our history, but we'll go through it anyway. If you don't mind, I just speak from here, or speak there, hear me.
Can you hear him?
He needs the mic. I can't hear him.
Move on, Mike. Yeah.
Take the mic and
I'm gonna be a recording star. The property then is defined before you, and what we have is we propose 3 lots. The lots again are serviced by a common driveway. We then split the lots into 3 as shown, where a common driveway provides access to the various house sites. The driveways are designed in such a manner that they meet fire safety requirements for providing K-turns per state fire department mandates. And so you enter into this driveway area here, a K-turn is available, or you can go right to the house site. Go to the next unit, again, a big K-turn is available, and the last site is here. Septic areas are depicted on the plan up in the upper corners. And in the lower area, we have some septic test data, which that indicates that the soils are adequate for septic systems. We haven't tested yet with Westchester County. We're going to wait for results of this review. Perimeter discussions, put it that way. We had the wetlands analyzed by Environmental Services, Inc., Mike Nowicki, a well-renowned soil scientist / wetland consultant. And he identified and provided wetland flags on the property as shown, and they were located by our surveyor. And so we've taken care of that component of the project itself. We also looked at steep slopes, and I could show you some nice color pictures, and we can talk about those. What's this one? This is a subdivision constraint map. This just talks about soils and wetland lines. And as I depicted to you before, we have a wetlands defined in blue, little wetland over here. This is red, where it combines slopes and wetlands. The yellow buffer area is depicted on the map itself, with another yellow down here, I suppose. That's another buffer. So also we have slopes between 15 and 25%, the light brown. Just for completeness sake, we did locate slopes between 25 and 35%. But most of these slope areas are too small to be counted per your steep slope ordinance. They're not, they're isolated, and they're underneath the 10,000 square foot regulation. But we showed them anyway to say that we realize that they're there, but they don't qualify per your regulations. And I have 2 of these here. The steep slopes are too small to be considered, and they're eliminated. They all become the slope below that. And then there's a steep slope area to the far west of this project. Again, this counts, and it has a lesser slope around it as well. As you can see, we have located the houses in such a manner to be outside of these areas of steep slope. and therefore the road moves in this manner on the property itself. Stormwater management, we've looked into that already. We've got some basins shown here to take common areas. There is a wetland, a sedimentation basin proposed here in the buffer because of the fact that we don't have any area to work with. We have to collect all our stormwater here for treatment prior to discharge to the wetland area. We have some more basins over here for these individual lots, but the cumulative impacts of the driveway are pretty much absorbed by these two basins in this area prior to discharge to the water course. The water courses will all be discharged in a manner parallel to the our bike path, and we're going to run piping down along here and discharge where that red line is, so we don't have to cross the bike path with any piping. We're diverting it to where we have a water course in that area. And then just for completeness, to walk over the other component we have for this, we have a soil map. If I can turn this over. And basically the soil maps indicate that we have Class B soils, which are the darker brown. The lighter brown is Class C soils. Class D soils are the wetland, of course, which are within the wetland as we've defined. And at this juncture, as you'll notice, the flagging area and the wetland and the soil lines don't quite match. It happens sometimes because we're using NRCS soil data, and they use photogrammetry while we have an actual in-place analysis of the wetland line. But anyway, we've located pretty much most of our development is in Class B soils, which are good for drainage and for construction. We provided you a particular list of the soils, basically a Charlton soil. The C soils are Ridgebury Complex and Lightchester, and the D soils are Colden Muck. So that's that. We did a couple other things just for interest's sake. So as I talked about the lots, we've talked about very quickly. The property, again, to define that as this big, huge angle here to the on the far side of the property. There's a small portion of land over across the right of way, which we aren't planning to do any development with, and we'll try and work out what to do with this small parcel, which was segmented from the major parcel by the penetration of the bike trail. So there's a little bit of extra piece of property over here we have no use for, but it's part of this ownership of this package. Just for clarity then, I also turned on the soils in a black and white form for our overall plan, which depicts both the subdivision and all our compliance to all your respective bulk zoning regulations and environmental sensitive land criteria. And we meet all these criteria with what we propose. In fact, our lots are larger than are required. And that means we have more usable land, far more usable land that's required for these compliant lots in the respective zone. And we have a table on all that we've prepared. It's hard to see it from this far away, but it's all part of the package. So, so Brian was kind of interested of what happened with this property and where did it go. And so I brought a litany of old plans that we may be able to talk back, reminisce about the old days on this particular property, and show you what we've done to improve what we have versus what was proposed in the past. I think this is one of the most pertinent ones. This was in 2005 was the last date I found. And this is basically what was proposed before. And what was proposed before was a road swinging around through a big area like this. Again, they had 3 lots, but they were compromised in a couple manners. One thing is when they did the steep slope analysis, they didn't take into account the reduction of certain slopes because of limited size. They didn't look at the zoning that carefully. And they didn't realize that we can eliminate these sections because they're less than 10,000 square feet. So they consider this all steep slopes, which it is not. Also, we had a surveyor check all the topography as well for this application. The other thing they had is it was a wetland in this location, but we had our soil scientists and wetland people inspect this area, and they did not find a wetland there. It's an upland area, but it does not constitute a wetland. But we're going to have or schedule a wetland review by your consultants at some time to verify the findings of our experts. But I've been working with Mr. Nowicki for 30 years, and all of his work is always accepted by appropriate agencies. But we'll get to that point at some time with this project. Because we didn't have the wetland here, we kind of had a much better approach to our lots. They weren't as constrained. They weren't driving through these large movements that you see on the plan. Our project has a lot less area of disturbance because we're using common elements as shown on the project. In 2013, we had some comment letters given to us about what was taking. There were some comment letters offered to us from the last applicant on this particular project. And it's something we just want to talk about really briefly if we could. In the past, someone ran a DEC mapper and they had findings which we don't follow with. And we will offer to you the updated resource environmental mapper from New York City DEC. And the findings of this map basically indicate, see all those little bubbles are appearing all over the place? These are areas of protected animals in the area, and they consist of bats. There's a big bat area depicted over here. As to the east of our property, more bats over here. There was some question on the last applicant about bog turtles. Again, our research has indicated that, in fact, through the DEC mapper, that we don't have bog turtles on our property, and are not identified by DEC, but I'm sure we'll have to address that sometime later on just to solve that problem. There is endangered species of cottontails, rabbits, but they're over here on this DEC mapper. And then again, we had people look at the site and we didn't really see any evidence. It's not really a good property for rabbit areas, but we'll have someone look at that as well as we pursue the project. The last item is we have a long form EAF ready to go. We have all the components to move forward, but we wanted to offer this to you first to sort of talk about where we're going with the project and maybe get some input from you at this point in time. Just for interest's sake, there was even another application before that on this property, which I show here. That's even earlier. And again, it follows a lot of similar traits that we have here. But again, the steep slopes were handled differently than they are on this particular map because of the revised ordinances you put in place since the date of these old subdivisions. So with that, could I answer any questions?
Let's hear from Dave and Steve first.
Comment on some of what he just said. You commented on the wildlife. I'm kind of familiar with the bike trail.
Yes.
How far would you say you are from the end of the bike trail? Roughly in feet.
I can get that data for you. I've ridden it many times, but I'll be candid with you. I have to go into a map to refer that distance.
Well, anyhow, I just want to point out there are a ton of turtles. Snapping turtles and box turtles.
Yes.
In great abundant amounts on the other side of the.
Right here.
In the prior application, we were talking about a spill. I'm just familiar with the area of the spill. and the bike path. And I'm so happy to be able to report about how happy the animal life is in the area of the spill. And there are a lot of turtles. It's just unbelievable.
Yes.
So
Yeah, we
you
are.
were referring to a specific one, but we have the Open Space Committee, which keeps track of our turtle population.
Yes.
And they will be reading these, and I'm sure they'll comment on how they feel about your assessment.
Sure. We would be more than happy to have our experts meet with yours in the field and walk through that. One thing is that we're following grade with all of our roadways. It's not a big fill operation, it's a driveway. But we have many ways of mitigating. You know, we can put tunnels underneath it for turtle passages and all the rest. We do this in other projects in the area. In regards to mitigating for the bats, typically we just don't cut any trees outside the envelope between October 1st and March 1st. And we don't do anything to the site in those, be outside those areas so the bats can go in the trees and such. And we do our work in the winter time if we can. What happens in a subdivision like this is we would normally show you a phase plan, which we have available for you. It's phased, so we go to this point and get all the common components operational. And then as we proceed forward, we design everything on an individual lot basis. So we cover the roads with a common component, HOA managed. And then later on, as each person builds their project, we make them standalone in regards to how to treat their stormwater. So you don't think of this project as wiping everything out. We're strategically working on it. And we'll show you limits of disturbance. We have an LLD line on our plans. It's shown on that defines where we're disturbing it. And we would be disturbing small components as we move forward. So it's going to be a 4-phase project. Common, lot 1, 2, 3 accordingly in that manner.
So, Mr. Chairman, I think it's important at this point to discuss kind of the process because Mr. Peter had
Yes.
Mentioned 280A as a process open development, and I've asked Mr. Riley to kind of fill the board in as to procedurally because as part of this process, the application would need to go to the town board for their approval of that process, and then there would just be a coordination of processing the application after that.
Yeah,
Mr. Riley.
280A subdivision 4 came about because this is a perfect example. There's no access via a town road or anything on a filed map. So the only way that can be developed is the town law 280A4. Like in a village, there's no such open development, but there is in the town. And what it requires is the coordination of the town board and the planning board. Either, this board will take the lead and should be, and I spoke to Roland about this too, would be the lead agency. And your requirement is that you must make a recommendation to the town board, either for or against the proposal. And the town board can then decide whether to accept it or to deny it. But your function is the regular planning function and to write this report to the town board. And there's no time restraints on this. You don't have like 90 days, 6 months or something to do this. So yeah, that's basically what it is. It's a way of keeping, the possibility is to keep an area rural characteristics in an area in the suburbs. So it's that would be the process. And it's like I said, I discussed it with Roland. I read up because I haven't done one of these in a while. And that's how it would go. The board would go through this whole process and decide whether it's favorable for the town board to make an open development area here. And I think you've gone through this process. I don't, in looking at what Surratt had, I didn't see anything about 280A I don't know how they were doing it, but I'm sure she knew
Yeah.
that that's what it was. When this, and I talked to you beforehand, that this was a project that seemed to be going along without much objection, and all of a sudden it stopped.
A quick question, if I may, is who's the lead agent for seeker?
Who's going to be the lead agent? Roland suggests, and I agree that it'll be the planning board.
Very good.
The town board could always say they want to be in it, but I'm taking information from him, they don't.
I have a question
Do you have any
about,
comments? Well, let's just hear from Steve and then we'll get board member
Okay.
comments.
Sure, excuse me. I think the development on the lot itself aside, I think our two main questions for the applicant would be around the work in the wetland buffer for the access road, and then secondarily for the access across the trailway. I understand that there is an easement, I think it's 16.5 foot wide or something like that across the bike path from DOT. But whether there's been any coordination or discussion with DOT or I'm not sure if it's county parks that has an administrative role of the trailway there around pedestrian and bicycle safety for the crossing of this driveway. Can you elaborate on both of those points, kind of what the thought is around mitigation for?
Yeah, we've
Sorry,
gone over
Chairman.
DOT, what they want, and basically is they want I call it a rumble zone. That is basically you're going to have a precast concrete elements on each side of the paved bike path, which would basically slow the vehicular traffic down, but also give it'll make a noise when you approach it. So they want people to hear people driving on aprons on each side of the pavement with a precast, like a unilock or equivalent. The DOT has a spec for it that we'd be proposing for it. And that's how you'd approach the crossing. Crossing's paved, we're not touching the pavement. You just basically, we have to put signage up like other places on the bikeway, which define that there's a crossing taking place. And that's pretty much it.
so so in order to connect the proposed subdivided properties and subsequent houses that would be developed on there, we need to lay a road across the rail trail so that they can access Green Tree Road, correct, to exit into the roadway system?
If I may, the bike path is asphalt and stays as such. We abut that with a precast elements of for a paving of precast stones, and that we butt those to the pavement itself. So literally, we're actually all we're doing is our vehicles will be crossing on the asphalt that exists there, and then outside of that area within the right of way, it'd be a cobbles, similar to cobbles.
Right. And then how do we stop the bicycles and walkers and strollers from
You don't,
walking the path while the residents are trying to traverse the bike path?
Yeah, there's stop signs. We have to put stop signs on each side of the crossing. I can give you many pictures of a standard detail they utilize on the bike path. There's probably 30 or 40 crossings across the bike path that are existing right now. We're going to file their details. They gave them to me already. We'll just provide them to you.
Yeah, there are standards for this type of situation that
Correct.
DOT has, and including stop signs, the rumble strips that you had
Yes.
mentioned, and several others.
And are we responsible to ensure that this project is compliant with those standards from the state DOT? Or is they a separate entity when it comes to that?
I have to apply for a permit. They indicated we could go forward with that, but we are waiting for a secret determination. Once we get the secret determination, we're going to get a permit from DOT to do this. That permit will be based upon the filing of their appropriate details. and approved by DOT as a third or fourth approval agency on this project. We have to go to town board, planning board, a DEP, DEC, Board of Health, and DOT. I don't think I left anyone out. Maybe Army Corps, we'll throw it in there as well.
Is it possible to have some kind of a mechanical signal device so that as a vehicle approaches the crossway, it would flash a light?
It's not necessary, but I mean, we can always pursue that with them. Typically, they don't like those type of materials because they don't want to maintain it. And I think whenever you see anything in the right of way, it's passive. That is, it's a sign. It's a rumble strip. It's something that they don't have to worry about because I think liabilities enter into it.
Yeah.
If it's not flashing appropriately.
If you put it in and it malfunctions, then there's a liability issue.
Yeah, right.
Right.
So you don't do it.
Yes.
You take.
I mean, if someone smacks into a bicyclist crossing the rail trail, I think there's some liability there too, right? So we have to do a risk analysis when it comes to that. Overall, I think.
Well, I
don't
think
know if that falls under our
the
purview, but
town of Somers would not be liable for that situation because it's not the lands of the town of Somers. It's actually the state of New York lands. If an impact takes place within that corridor, and that's kind of how it seems to work with other proposals we've done in the past of crossing the bike trail.
And this isn't the first one.
No. Nope.
Excuse me, the roadway that you're describing, that's an extension from the Green Street across is a common driveway and it'll be built to driveway specs. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes, it's a common driveway. It'll be maintained by an HOA or a maintenance agreement between the owners. There's two ways to do these type of projects. You'd have the right, of course, to review the specs of the common component. And we're going to have some specialty specifications where we cross through the buffer from the wetland. But beyond that, it'll be a very high-end driveway. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
Maybe question for everybody, John and Jerry, in terms of the 288-4, like the open space, the open development, right?
Right.
And our requirement to make a recommendation to the town board and theirs to respond. I understand that there's no clock ticking, no time, date certain by which we need to do it, but relatively speaking, how would we anchor it in the process? I mean, my gut would be that you'd do it at the point that you kind of can have a public hearing, because at that point you've got data and information that everybody could be looking at.
Or at least enough information for us to feel comfortable to send a letter.
To at least sort of do
Right.
that. But I'm just trying to think.
So wait a minute, you couldn't have the public hearing until after.
No, but she's just saying how much information would we have? Isn't that what you were getting at?
At
Yeah.
what point
Yeah.
how do we sort of measure when we have enough information about the project that we could comfortably?
We'd have
make
to
a
feel
recommendation?
comfortable because it's going to come from all seven of us.
That's right.
Yeah.
From the planning board, because you're the board in the town that is most
Right.
responsible for ideas like this. All the issues would go into it. Your usual subdivision questions. Is the road suitable? Is it suitable for the fire trucks? Are they taking care of the water? All of these
whole bit.
subdivisions.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
We're satisfied.
and we wouldn't go to a public hearing if we weren't satisfied.
I don't think you'd go to
So
a public
that's
hearing
going-
until the
Until after the
until the
town. board.
town declares its open development, right?
Well, typically, they can't do an action unless there's a seeker determination. I think you have to look into the seeker regs because it has to be coordinated review. It can't be uncoordinated. So
Yeah.
typically, it's like going to getting a variance. If someone has to get a variance on a project, a lot of times either they're deferred to the ZBA, it's uncoordinated, or you do a seeker determination and send it off to the ZBA per se for a for determination. This is another agency,
Well, the
interagency.
ZBA thing is, if you go through a subdivision application, and the board finds that you need a variance, they send it to the zoning board, and the zoning board either gives them the variance or not. Without the variance, nothing proceeds.
Right. But somehow we need some sort of Sika paperwork in place with the
Secret.
Sika,
Seeker, right.
something has to happen with Sika.
Yeah, procedurally, in order for the subdivision to proceed, you need to get the
Somebody has to
You
declare
need-
themselves lead agency.
well, not
don't
only
they?
that, but you need to get the town board to agree to the open development concept
Before you have the public hearing.
before you have the public
It
hearing.
has to be a done deal.
Right.
before the
That's right. So,
For public hearing, you have everything, all your facts.
Right.
So the question is, at this point, if you feel comfortable declaring your intent to act as lead agency, and then circulate that notice of intent to the other interested and involved agencies, which include the town board. And that just puts them on notice that you are going to act as lead agency
Unless they decide to.
unless they decide to. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to provide them with your recommendation
Right.
on the 280A. So that, I think that, what's that?
At that point.
At that point, right.
Right.
All you're doing is you're establishing who would coordinate the environmental review as
At
part of
this
the
point in
process.
time.
Correct.
Everybody feel comfortable with us declaring ourselves lead agency?
Yes.
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 Bruce, Chris?
Barb.
Yes,
You're going to declare, and just to be clarifying, you're going to declare your intent to act as lead
To
agency.
act, I'm sorry.
They
yeah.
notice they-
Do we have to,
Forward that.
do we have to say what type this is or anything? No, just our intent to become.
It is I think you would indicate it was a type 1 action or an unlisted action,
Unlisted.
unlisted action.
It's type 1,
So-
right?
No.
No,
Type 2? Type 2?
No, it's not a type 2, but I think
No, it's type-
it's probably an unlisted action.
Yes.
Given that you don't have, just in a quick review of the environmental assessment form, you don't have significant adverse impacts.
Okay.
So, and given the scope and scale of the development, so I think you're comfortable with, even if it's an unlisted action, of taking that step of acting as your notice of intent to act as lead agency at this point. And that just starts the process. You're not making any decisions on the
Right.
process.
We're just notifying people
That's correct.
and agencies.
Yes.
Then I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The other thing I was hoping to do is, because winter is approaching,
Site walk?
yes. And also, with consultants to review our findings from our side, we need to work that out with the wetland line, et cetera.
Yeah. Steve, are you still there? I am here. Yeah. Do you have somebody in your shop that can review wetland boundaries?
Yes.
Okay.
We
about-
also have to establish an escrow account.
Yeah.
So we can pay for everyone to look at the property. I can do that too. if I
Yeah,
can.
we'll get in touch with Wendy.
Very
again,
good.
And we'll coordinate that. Yeah.
Very good.
How
Thank you.
much time are you gonna need to stake some things?
Whenever you feel fit to be there, we'll have it staked.
I'm looking for some board's suggestions.
Probably next weekend. Or is it weekends you want to visit or weekdays? How does it work?
Usually weekends.
Oh, yeah, it could be next weekend.
Yeah.
So Saturday, the 22nd?
A week from Saturday.
What's the date?
I think it's
22nd, I believe.
22nd.
At the end of Green Tree Road?
Yes.
And if someone is not there that day, we could meet up again. Jack just said he wouldn't be there.
I'll be there. I
We'll-
mean,
no,
our
another
office will
time.
be there.
Another time, I'm saying. If-
Oh,
If anybody can't make that date.
We could meet if they want to.
Okay. Okay,
So I don't lose one of your members in the woods.
So we-
as long as it's not sunrise. Steve, is that okay with you?
Saturday, the 22nd is fine. Yes.
Chris
I'm
and
good with that
Bruce?
I'm good with that date. Bruce?
I have a problem, but I can do it at another time. I'm
All right, so
supposed to,
you and Jack could do it then.
yeah, I'm supposed to go to hospital on 22nd.
Oh, boy.
The person I can coordinate that.
Okay, so then,
That'd be fine.
the 22nd, 9 o'clock.
Yes, very good. One thing for reference purposes, there is an existing house here, the cul-de-sac, but there is parking on the cul-de-sac. if
Okay.
You have to, just to keep it simple.
So that cul-de-sac is Green Tree Road.
That's correct.
Okay. And just for the record, that's Somers address?
Yes.
Okay. Huh?
Yorktown Heights.
I was just thinking what we put in. Yorktown Heights.
Yeah, it
Okay.
says Yorktown Heights. Yeah.
Did you hear that, Chris? And Steve?
Yeah, or is that Baldwin Place up there?
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Okay. Anything else we can answer tonight? Okay.
No,
No.
Well, thank you very much for your time, everyone, and
All
look
right.
forward to meeting you at the site.
See you then.
Take
Okay.
care. Bye.
Any other board member comments?
Mr. Chairman.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I just did want to give the board a heads up that the town board is scheduling a public hearing in November for two matters, on zoning matters, which you will receive in short order. The first is allowing for pet care services in the commercial shopping center. That's a Erstat Biddle suggestion. And then the second one is some revisions to the BHP, the Business Historic Preservation District, which would restrict the use of drive-through restaurants and convenience retail in the
There's
district.
no 7-Elevens.
No. So you'll be getting those, and that would be a discussion item and recommendation to the town board at your next meeting.
I
Good.
think We received the.
Yeah, we saw that, yeah.
We did.
We
Okay,
did get
perfect.
that, yes.
Okay, excellent. Good.
For the record, our next meeting is November 9th, 2022. Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. See you on the week from Saturday.